with authority. Welcome to another quarantine edition of our With Authority podcast. Larry Beal, Casey Pratt, Chris Alvarez, and our guest today is Sharks captain Logan Couture. Logan, thanks for joining us. I assume you're in the South Bay, staying at home.
I am. I'm at home. I'm in Willow Glen here, and still waiting to find out what's going to happen with our season before I head to Canada.
Okay. We're going to talk a lot of hockey, obviously, but we kind of like to do it a little bit differently here with the podcasts. And I was going to say I did a deep dive on Logan Couture. It was really more of a shallow dive last night, but mostly stalking all of your social media. So we'll get to the hockey, but first, I want to know about one of your passions, because you are a card-carrying member of the Bills Mafia, the Buffalo Bills. I saw a shot of you on Instagram where you're probably, 3, 4, 5 years old. You're wearing the Bills sweater, and obviously that probably comes from your proximity to the team growing up. But how passionate are you about Bills Mafia?
It's my number one team, the Buffalo Bills. If I could see one of my teams, other than the Sharks, obviously, win a championship, it would be the Buffalo Bills. I grew up in the 90s. My uncle was a massive Bills fan. That was when they went to 4 Super Bowls in a row. I won't mention how they did in them, but I was in my heyday back then. I'm a Toronto Blue Jays fan, so they were winning World Series. The Sabres were making the playoffs every year, but the Bills are my team. I watch every game I can. This year was the first time I was able to really watch a playoff game that I can remember. I think the last time they were in the playoffs was in the late 90s. So I watched it in our hotel room. I think we were in Washington. We got there just in time for the fourth quarter, and then Barclay Goodrow and Erik Karlsson came to my room, and they suffered through overtime with me in the highs and lows. But it was just fun to see them in the playoffs, and I'm excited for the future that they have.
Yeah, I'm sure you were pretty upset that Tom Brady left the Patriots to go to the Bucs. Now clearing the division for you.
I know.
But one of the traditions of Bills Mafia in the parking lot before the game is one fan picking up another fan and body slamming him through a table. And I'm just wondering if you would be willing to partake in that. Would you rather be the thrower or the throwee in this equation for television's sake?
I'll be going through a table at some point. It's just I'm going to wait till the playing career is over first. I don't want anything to happen. But I've only been to one game in Buffalo. Just the way the seasons match up. I was able to go during our lockout. So I've only been there once. We went to a game last year in Nashville, in Tennessee. We got to see the Bills Titans when we were on the road. Couldn't find a Bills tailgate in time, but I'm eventually going to get to go through one.
Yeah. Who do you want throwing you? Joe Thornton, Bernsey, Doug Wilson? I don't know. Who?
I mean, Bernsey would go hard, and he would make it legit. So Jumbo or Bernsey, they both go hard. So
excellent.
Those guys are good choices.
Wow, I didn't know that this was going to go this direction, but the Bills do play the 49ers in Santa Clara on Monday Night Football this season, so I presume if everything is normal, we'll probably see you there, actually.
Yes, 100%. I'm hoping that we don't play on that night, and I'm free and get tickets and go.
So let's take this a little bit to the situation we're in right now. What have you been doing to pass the time? I've seen the book club post. That's a really cool thing that I'm sure is passing a lot of time. I've seen the haircut situations. We're all cutting our own hair, too. We were joking about that before the show started. So what have you been doing to kind of get through everything as you stay at home?
Yeah, I think the same as everyone, reading, watching TV, movies. I work out. I wake up. I try and get into a routine. I wake up early in the morning. I get a workout in. I've got a Peloton bike that I was able to get at the early stages of this quarantine, and I've got some weights that I'm able to work out, and then just some time on the couch, some time in my backyard. That's basically it. Try and stay indoors to ourselves as much as possible.
I would imagine the Peloton competitions right now in the Sharks organization are off the chart. Is there somebody that you're doing battle with? Are there a lot of people taking part in Peloton in the organization? Who's like the craziest rider right now?
I haven't gone with anyone. I know Bernsey has one. I know Nace has one. I don't know. I think Deller might have one as well. I don't know if there's many guys that have one. Brody Brazil has one. I'm friends with him on there.
You'd probably crush him like a grape.
he rides a little bit slower than I do, so I haven't gone with him yet. But one day we'll go together.
Hey, if you're going to take shots at the media on this podcast, Logan, we're going to ramp up the aggressiveness of the questioning. I'm just going to put that up right now.
Logan, I searched, we're all fans of teeth in the media. It's an important deal for us. But for hockey players, it's like a rite of passage to lose them. So I did a Google search, Logan Couture teeth. And, I mean, there's some pretty gnarly stuff on here. How many teeth have you lost, and which is the worst of these? I mean, there's some pretty rough stuff on there, man.
Yeah, so the worst one was in Nashville. I think it was 2017, I want to say. We were in Nashville, and we were on a tough road trip where we'd lost every game on that road trip, and we were losing like 4-1 at the end of the second period. And took a puck right square in the teeth, like square. Didn't hit a part of my lip, nothing. Square in the teeth, knocked my mouth guard out. I lost 3 teeth right away from the top. They fell out. I went back to the medical room in Nashville. So when you get hurt on the road, they take you to their dressing room. And I was very fortunate there that there was a female dentist that just told me, you got to suck this up. This is going to hurt right now. And my bottom teeth are all rammed to the back of my mouth. So she grabbed them with her finger like that, just pulled them forward. And she was able to actually save these teeth. They've been root canaled, but they're still my real teeth. So 4 on the top, 4 on the bottom are root canaled. So 8, I guess you could say.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty crazy. I mean, they stuck a needle in my face like to freeze it. Like it was like this big, all the way up to my eye. And I had to go to Vanderbilt, the hospital at Vanderbilt right after that, and they did surgery to put that wiring on my teeth. It took about 2.5 to 3 hours. So it was a wild night.
I'm actually getting my wisdom teeth out on Saturday. I'm not looking forward to it. Do you have any advice for me?
Smoothies, man. Smoothies, a lot of ice. Don't try not to talk too much.
Yeah.
The wisdom teeth. As we said, we like to do things differently here. Now, if you can hear this song, what does this song mean to you?
Yeah, my goal song. Yeah, just try to do something different. I mean, the mentality was to try and get something to get the fans into it and energy to the building. And it happened. I was injured when the goal songs were starting. And my first goal I scored was an overtime winning goal when I came back from my injury, and that song played. And guys on the ice they're happy, and then they heard the song and they're looking at me like, what the are you hearing this right now? And then we got in the room after, and guys are like, why? What were you thinking?
Was that Cyndi Lauper?
It was, yeah.
Girls just want to have fun?
They do.
Look at Logan, he's juiced.
All right.
I came prepared, Larry.
I like that. I want to go back to your experience with pain. I would, first of all, if the doctor told me you're just going to have to suck it up and tough it out, I'd be looking for another doctor. But circumstances in the locker room in Nashville, you didn't have that option. But last year against Vegas, and correct me if I'm wrong on my details here, but you got high sticked,
right,
and you lost 2 teeth. However, there was another injury in that game that you suffered that actually had you much more concerned. I wonder if you could elaborate on that, please.
Yeah, that was a different game. That was earlier in the series. I think that was game 2. Yeah, I forgot about that. Thanks for the memories. But, I was sliding back on defense, and I think it was Cody Eakin pulled up and took a wrist shot, and I exposed my left leg, and my right leg was in a weird position, and it hit me right in like square in the right testicle. And I came off the ice, and I instantly threw up. So our doctor came rushing down, and thankfully it was all good. Still all good.
Yeah. Thank goodness it wasn't a slap shot instead of a wrist shot.
Yeah, I mean, it hurt.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually very serious. We joke about hockey players and their ability to withstand pain. What's the deal with that? Because it almost seems like it's understood if you play your sport at a high enough level, teeth knocked out, stitches, whatever. Next shift, I'll be out there. Where does that mentality come from?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I'd like to say a lot of Canadian players grew up tough. American players too. But, when you're a hockey player, I mean, you just have that mentality where if you're going to be able to help your team, unless it's really, really bad, you're going to do whatever you can to be on the ice and help your team as long as you're not hurting your team. And, for us on the Sharks, we've had a lot of guys play through a lot of injuries, and I've seen it firsthand. So you don't want to be that one person that refuses to play when you can play. Obviously, you got to know where that line is, though.
No, I know that the season stopping the way it did is probably very weird and unconventional. But speaking of the way that everyone's beat up, especially at this time of the year, is this in a weird way a positive in any shape or form that kind of just helps you get your body right? I don't know if you guys are going to come back to play. I don't know what the plans are, but does this kind of help you in a strange way?
I don't know. I really don't know. For me personally, right now, if our season continued, we probably would have missed the playoffs, right? So right now, I'd be in a gym doing my summer training. So that is hurting, us as athletes right now. So we would also be able to skate right now. We aren't. But we'll have time if we do come back this year or when we come back next season to properly get ready for training camp and work out and skate again. So right now I wish I was able to get to a gym, get to our facility and start, getting into my summer training, but I'm making do with what I have here.
No, I know we had Steve Kerr on the podcast a week and a half ago, and he really said that, look, we're not going to make the playoffs. We don't see any reason to come back and play at this point. I know that you guys almost always make the playoffs. Since you've been there, you've only missed it one time, but this is a little bit different of a year. So mentally, are you kind of thinking that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to put out the extra risk and come back to play, or are you kind of planning to do it? You want to get out there?
So for me, I see both sides. I see the point in saying, what are we doing here if we're going through all this to play 6, 7, 8 games, right? But at the same time, I also say it would be nice to get a camp in the middle of summer, to get playing hockey again, to really break it up, because if there's no hockey and if the next season doesn't start till December, we're looking at a massive break, and that's a long time to be away from the game. So I do want to – I wish we could, be playing right now, but unfortunately that's not realistic. So I see both sides. We'll see what happens coming up here. I think we should probably have more answers in the next little while.
Logan, you referenced having answers in the next little while. If you have a call tomorrow, correct? And if you do, can you tell the fans and viewers what that's going to be like and what you potentially hope to hear tomorrow?
Yeah, just news. The NHL and the NHLPA, they're updating us constantly. It's just we usually have 1 or 2 calls a week with the Players Association and one scheduled tomorrow. So hopefully there'll be more to discuss.
Are you in favor of, every league has their own plans and some of them involve going to remote locations and creating kind of this bubble or biosphere setup. One was, I'm trying to remember, I want to say it was North Dakota, I believe, and there was another somewhere in Canada. Do you see the mechanics of that working out, or kind of the logistics becoming too difficult?
Well, I think they shot down the idea of the North Dakota one. I think they want it to be in NHL arenas. So they're looking at, I think, from anywhere to 15, 20 locations that NHL teams play in. For us, if we're going to be playing and we're going to play, say 6 or 7, 8 or 8 games, it would be basically a 3-week, stay. It would be a week longer than a normal road trip for us. So it wouldn't be that big of a deal. I'm sure teams that are, going to make the playoffs and teams that may win the Stanley Cup, if they're going to have to be away from families, away from home for 3.5 months, that would be tougher for them. But I think for the chance to win the Stanley Cup, I think most guys would probably take that.
Interesting. You guys had kind of a rough season that you touched on earlier. What's more difficult, the losing, the injuries, or having a head coach fired and some great teammates traded as a result?
Nothing's easy in what you just said there. It's all difficult. One thing really leads to another. We didn't have a great start. We didn't have a great training camp. We came out of the gate real slow. Vegas took it to us in the first 2 games, and it was tough. Then Pete gets fired, and I personally have never gone through something like that where coach is fired mid-season, and not many guys in our team have either. So that was a new experience for us. But, Boogie came in, and I thought we were playing some pretty good hockey. I thought we were really turning things around, and then guys started going down. So, difficult season. The trades sucks. I mean, really, really good people, good teammates, really, really good friends of mine, really like guys that I've been around for years, and I'm very close with them, their families, their girlfriends. So it was difficult, but that's what happens when you lose. So for us as a team, that it should fuel us into next year.
Just from watching your social media posts, it seems like you and Christian McCaffrey, the former Stanford star, have some friendship, and I'm wondering, because I see him liking your stuff and vice versa, and do you know him from his Stanford days? Now he's with Carolina, just signed that huge deal, $16 million a year. How do you guys know each other?
Yeah, so I knew one of the equipment guys at Stanford, and this was probably, Christian's second year at Stanford. I would go to a bunch of the games. We went to, maybe 3 of the games where USC was at Stanford. We saw a bunch of games, and we'd stand on the sideline, and I got to know a few of the players, Kevin Hogan, Christian McCaffrey, Michael Rector, and actually had a few of them over to my apartment. After one of our games, they'd come down and watch us play. Christian and I have kept in touch. During his year, he should have won the Heisman. We would text a ton, and just really happy for him. He's a great, great person. So humble, so down to earth for how good of an athlete he is. So we keep in touch. I'm very happy for him.
I'm sure you read all the same things before the draft, and there were questions. He's not that fast. He's not that big. And having watched him so much at Stanford, I was just laughing because it's like, this guy, you can't tackle him. It's ridiculous.
No, I mean, I tweeted about it the other day, but just that Rose Bowl game against Iowa, when he took that game over, I mean, the first play from scrimmage, I think he took the ball, 65 yards, caught a pass in the middle of the field, took it to the house. So just a game breaker every time he touched it in college. And I mean, just what he's done in the NFL speaks for itself.
Yeah, if only he was on the Bills, right?
That'd be nice.
Now, we've just passed the 1-year anniversary of that Game 7 against Vegas, and I know you had a huge part in that game, and just watching it, it was probably the most incredible game I've ever seen in any sport. So now that you're a year removed from it, what were your impressions of what happened that night on the ice? I mean, I could imagine the heart must have just been pumping like crazy. That was one of the nuttiest things I've ever seen. Yeah,
it was probably the craziest game I've ever been a part of. It'll be tough to top it, that's for sure. I mean, that series and as a whole, I mean, just the hatred between the two teams, us winning game 1, controversy game 2, them going out to a 3-1 lead, us having to go into that building where we had been awful for 2 years in a must-win game, and Martin Jones having 60 saves, Tommy Hurdle scoring shorthanded, just an incredible game 6, and then game 7. It was wild. Unfortunately, we found ourselves in a hole. We were down 3-0 there in the third. Took advantage of a penalty, and some people may disagree with the call, but we still had to score 3 goals on it, and we scored 4. But the arena was so loud. I've said this many times, but the feeling on the bench or on the ice, when you go to a club and you sit close to the base and it just pumps and pumps and pumps for hours, and then you leave the club and there's nothing, like your ears are ringing. That's what it felt like after the third period when we walked into the dressing room. I mean, they scored, so we were down, or we were upset. We weren't down. It was going to overtime. But your ears were ringing. You could barely hear what the guy beside you was saying. That's just how loud the SAP Center was. So it was incredible. And then when Goody scored in overtime, it got that loud again. And just so much energy, and the feeling afterwards, it took a while for us to settle down after that game.
Now, I know Joe Pavelski was injured in that game, and he is now not on the team anymore. You're the captain. So what has the C changed for you? What has made it different? Like, what are your responsibilities now that you are the captain of the team?
Honestly, not much. I said, last year, if this was going to happen, I'm not going to change who I am. I'm not going to change the player I am. I'm not going to change the person I am. I'm not going to go around faking it in the dressing room. I played with enough of those guys that they know who I am. They know what I'm about. They know every day when I get to the rink what I'm going to do. So if I change, they're just going to see that as fake. But, obviously it was difficult. It was a difficult first year as a captain because the team, we didn't have a good year. But for me, I learned a lot. I think there's a lot for me personally to build on, just certain situations, how I go about dealing with different situations. So, in a part, I'm happy that I was able to learn a lot from this year. I know I never want to go through this ever again. So, and I know we're going to do whatever we can to not have a year like this year.
Now, I remember way back in the day, Joe Thornton, he'd be like the first guy to talk, and he'd always have just like a purple towel and no shirt on. And then when he became captain, he had to wear a shirt for all of his interviews. So I don't know if that's part of the responsibility or what. But
yeah, I mean, it's rare to see him with a shirt on. So
yeah, right. Go ahead, Chris.
Logan, you referenced a couple questions ago about the deafening noise and the crowd and the energy you got off that. And if you guys come back this year, it's going to be without fans unless something crazy changes. So can you explain what it really means to have fans and the energy and how maybe that affects your play and makes you play better? And then potentially, could you play without fans? I mean, what would that even be like in a huge empty arena?
Yeah, sure. I'll answer the without fans question first. I think as players, I think for us, we realize what's going on in the world, and if we do come back, we're playing to give people at home something to look forward to. Hopefully they do, great broadcasts on TV, and people can look forward to watching hockey on it. So that's really not, it's obviously going to be different. It's obviously going to take some time getting used to it. But for us to come back, that's what we're looking at to keep people happy at home and for them to enjoy it. And then playing in front of fans. I mean, the SAP Center is as good as it gets, especially come playoff time. The building is so that you can feel, you can drive into the rink. I get to the SAP Center 2.5, 3 hours before game time, and just driving there down the street, Sharks jerseys everywhere. You just get the energy. You feel the energy. You jump on the ice for warm up, and people are buzzing already. So I love playing at home, scoring in front of the fans. They go loud. It's even better to score on the road and quiet. 19,000 Vegas fans in the playoffs. It's tough to beat that feeling, honestly.
So is it weird, because you mentioned the quote-unquote hatred between the Sharks and Vegas, now to have Peter DeBoer, your old coach, on their bench? Because I'm sure you have affection for him. You could still hate the other players, though, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I don't think the hatred for the Golden Knights is going to change. I mean, I love Pete as a coach. I thought he was a great coach, and as good of a coach as Pete is, he's an unbelievable, even better person. Just a great guy to have, to read a group, to push the right buttons. The staff that he had, Dave Barr, Boogie this year, Steve Spott, Johan Hedberg. It was a great coaching staff, and they took us to places that us in San Jose had never been to. We'd never been to a final before. A lot of that goes into our coaching staff. So it'll be different, playing against them. We haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. So it'll be different that first time. But, once that puck drops and the game started, it's going to feel like a normal Sharks Vegas game.
Yes. Get ready to throw the gloves down and go. You're obviously a huge sports fan, and because you grew up in Canada, I noticed an affection as well for the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you happened to be at Oracle for Game 6 last June when the Raptors and Kawhi Leonard beat the Golden State Warriors. And you do know, by the way, if Clay doesn't tear his ACL, that the Warriors win in 7. You do know that, right? Oh, I see the eye roll already.
You know how many interviews that the Warriors people have said, blah, 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 this. Well, it didn't happen. So Toronto won the series. No, I wasn't at Game 6. I was at Game 4 with Erik Karlsson. He's good friends with Jonas Jerebko. So he got us tickets. Him and I went with his brother-in-law as well. And then, I was actually scheduled to fly home to Canada on the day of Game 6 because I wasn't planning for Toronto to lose Game 5. And in Toronto, I didn't think that was going to happen. So the day that Toronto lost Game 5, Eric actually texted me and said, "You want to go to Game 6? I got tickets again." And I should have. I didn't change the flight. I flew home, but I was able to make it home in time to my house to watch I think the third and fourth quarter of that game. So it was nice to see.
Yeah, it was funny because we were doing a post-game show on the baseline, and we saw Jonas there, and then we saw Carlson, who was on crutches at the time because he had just had surgery. And in fact, Casey was telling me, "Look behind you."
I was like, grab Eric.
Yeah, I'm saying he's on crutches. I can't grab him. What are we going to do? I mean, there he is. He's back there. Eric Carlson's here.
And he went to a bunch of the games, I think. He went throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, and then remember when we had him on this very podcast, he actually got mad at you for not putting him on the show. He was upset that you didn't reach out to him.
He's not the first guest unhappy with my questions or or actions. So join the club.
Now we are live, so I'm checking the Facebook comments. Most people are just basically professing their love for you. Some people are really enjoying the Dunder Mifflin background from the show The Office. We have a guy named Eric Growl who asked this question, though. He said when you first joined the Sharks, him and his brother nicknamed you Weapon X because Logan is the name of Wolverine. I don't know if you're a comic fan, but did you follow the comics at all or X-Men or any of that stuff?
No, I never did.
Well, there you go, Eric Growl. Your question has been asked.
Oh, Wolverine is a bad man. You got to watch at least one of those X-Men movies. The last one was really good. Yeah, you want to be like Wolverine. Hugh Jackman, he got so jacked for that last movie. I mean, just absurd.
Yeah, I have seen photos of him. He was big.
Yeah.
Well, Wolverine had the mutant healing factor, which would probably be the most important thing you could have as a hockey player, I would imagine.
Yeah, it would help. It would help.
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, he would be a great hockey player, but we're talking a lot about Canada. Are you more of a Drake or Justin Bieber guy?
Drake is my guy. He's been my number one for since the start. Actually, a crazy story about Drake. One of my former teammates that played in San Jose, I think in 2010, his name was Derek Joslin. He was a defenseman. His best friend, his name's Jared. He's an actor, and he was in Billy Madison. He was Scotty Logan and Billy Madison. I don't know if you remember him. He actually was on Degrassi with Drake. So he was telling Derek, he's like, you got to look out for this guy. His name's Aubrey. He goes by Drake. He raps every lunch break on Degrassi for us. Like, he's going to be the next big thing. So Jaws he was the guy that really introduced me to Drake. And since, 2009, I think we were playing junior together. Yeah, it's been a while. So he's been my guy since then.
Do you talk to Drake? Do you have a personal relationship with him?
No, I don't. Joel Ward, he's friends with a security guard that was, I believe, Drake's security guard for a little while. There was video out there. I think Drake was playing in San Jose a couple years ago, and he came out in a Ward 42 black Sharks jersey, which was a pretty nice thing to see.
One of the things that we touched on was the possible benefits of mutant healing powers. On a more serious note, I know one of the things that you're involved in, charity, is All In for Brain Research. How did you take an interest in that? How did it get started? And just maybe discuss the evolution of your participation.
Sure. So I was working with a guy in my hometown of London, Ontario. His name's Jeff Fisher. He's actually my business manager now. And when I was in junior hockey, I suffered a few concussions. And I actually got to see his wife, who was the head concussion doctor in the City of London. And the City of London has a great physical therapy center. It's the Fowler Kennedy Clinic, which is a lot. People travel from all over Canada to come see this place. That's how good it is. And it was just something that meant a lot to me when I was thinking about, a foundation to start or a charity to help out with. And Jeff and I came up with the idea of doing a casino night. Just to do something different. We didn't want to do a golf tournament. It's so common, a baseball tournament, anything like that. So we figured a casino night would be a good night to come out and have fun and do something different and raise money for brain research. And we've done it the last 3 years now. We actually did one in Kitchener-Waterloo the last 2 years and had Pete DeBoer and Steve Spott there as guest stars. And it's a great night. It's a lot of fun. Hopefully, we're really hoping that at some point this summer, we can do it. We don't know, but we're hoping.
Do you ever have concerns about, well, you played for a long time and you know the risks, obviously, and we're discovering more, learning more about CTE and those things, about the long-term impact of playing professional hockey? Is that a concern of yours?
Not right now. No, I think, I've seen firsthand kind of the improvement that the sport, especially hockey, has made towards the head injuries. Our team in San Jose here, our medical staff has always done a great job from day one. If you have a head injury and you're not feeling right, there's no pressure to play. It's all right. You're going to get out of here, and we're going to make sure you're good, and you're not coming back until you are good. So our medical guys here have done a great job protecting us. So I have no issues here.
I saw that you were actually a really good baseball player in your young days too. So what do you think could have happened if you stayed with baseball, and what eventually led you to hockey? Because obviously that was the right choice.
Yeah, no, I love baseball. I played up until I was 14, and then I had to make the choice between baseball and hockey. Who knows? I don't think I was, at that time I wasn't good enough to, who knows though? I mean, I had offers for scholarships coming in when I was 14 and 15, so you never know what can happen, but I'm glad I chose hockey. I was a shortstop and second baseman in baseball. Just didn't hit the ball as good as some of the top end guys did. That was my biggest weakness, but I'm glad I stuck with hockey.
Logan, we're all doing different things during this time of quarantine, maybe new hobbies. I've started to pick up some video games. I just got NHL 20 the other day.
Nice.
Do you play it a lot? Are you happy with how you look in your skill rating, and what are your new hobbies these days?
No, I don't. I haven't played video games in almost 5 years. I know I used to play with a few guys on the team back when Call of Duty. We used to play Call of Duty after games, but I haven't. I don't even know what my rating is or what's going on in that game. Hopefully they gave me a decent rating. For hobbies, I mean, it's just reading, TV. I do some gardening in my backyard, some pulling some weeds since the gardeners haven't been able to come. So maybe that.
Chris, he's an educated man. He doesn't have time for video games.
I'm sorry, I'm not the same. Look at the shirt I'm wearing. I have a lot of trouble over here, Larry. Reading for 2 months.
40 to 60 books a season, which is insane. That's more than Chris read in his entire college career at Fresno State.
I'm watching YouTube videos on how to get better at NHL 20, Larry.
Yeah, well, yeah, we all have our priorities. So I saw you were a big Stephen King fan, a Grisham guy. I kind of I don't know if you're familiar with Brad Thor.
Yeah, I read the whole entire series.
We should be hanging out. I don't know why we have these other guys on this call even.
Yeah.
I have a couple books back there.
So what are you reading right now, and what can you recommend? What gets the Logan Couture the 5-star rating?
So currently, at this moment, I'm reading Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. I had just read Outliers by him last week, so I ordered the rest of his books. I it's weird. I read 3 or 4 books at the same time. I've also got Why We Sleep going. I was suggested that by Barclay Goodrow's dad. He said, you got to read this book. It'll change your life. It's a little bit of a slower read. So, and then I'm reading the latest Orphan X book from Greg Hurwitz. I don't know if you've read any of that series. It's similar to the Scott Horvath series. It's very good.
Yeah, you've read more books than the 3 of us combined in a long, long time.
Lots of free time.
Yeah, I think that says more about you than – well, it says more about us too, actually. But not in a good way. Not in a good way.
I read 3 books a day, but they're all kids' books to my son and 3-year-old, so I don't know if that counts.
Casey's really big with green eggs and ham. That's his speed. That's his speed.
I'm 140 characters per tweet. That's all I can really handle.
Yeah. Hey, let's wrap it up. Just what do you got planned the rest of the day and the rest of the week?
The rest of the day, I'm having issues with my pool right now, so I got to meet with the pool people to figure out what's going on. So that's the big thing on the agenda. The rest of the week, not much. Gonna wake up, get a workout in tomorrow, and figure out the rest of the day after that.
All right. Well, hopefully the weather gets a little bit better so you can actually enjoy some pool time. I saw pictures of that pool. That pool is pretty. Is it an infinity pool?
It's not, no, but it's beautiful. They did a great job with it. They just finished it in January or February, right before this happened. So I'm thankful that they're able to finish.
Good timing. and so was this. We really appreciate your time, and can't wait till we see you back on the ice with the Sharks and sports back again, and whatever the new normal is. I think we can't wait to see it, and can't wait to see you again doing your thing on the ice with teeth, with teeth.
Hopefully they stay in there.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Logan. Take care.
Yeah.
With authority.